Greetings gamers, ex-gamers and friends and family of gamers. Okay, diet-wise, this has been a pretty rubbish week. I've gone from completely off my food to hungry enough to eat an entire planet and still have room for a few moons. That being said, there's been a box of Quality Street in my field of vision for most of this week and I've managed to resist the temptation to eat it, so that's a plus. So, what's the upshot of all this crazy yo-yoing from gluttony to starvation and back? The result is my weight seems to have found a new stable zone at around 115.5 kilos, but my body fat percentage has almost returned to my pre-diet levels of 44%ish, up from the 42s. That's a 2% rise in body fat. So I'm clearly losing muscle tissue, which is not surprising since I feel physically weaker, but that's down to this flu that I've been fighting off for the past week and a bit. On a positive note, I've been avoiding trans fats from pre-processed food and trying to keep a healthy balance of protein, fats and carbs. Since I haven't had much call to eat any red meats or black pudding, I've been getting my iron from multivitamin tablets. I also had a blood test result and it turns out my iron levels are still normal. I hope one day to be able to ditch the multivitamins and get all my micronutrients from a balanced, healthy diet. On the subject of micronutrients, let's look at another micronutrient we can't live without, and that is salt. Salt is a term used for a multitude of substances, but the most common salt we find in our diet is sodium chloride. Here in the West, we tend to eat far too much salt, so it's commonly demonised, and we're told to cut back on our salt intake, but the truth is, without salt in our diet, we would simply die. Salt is an important part of our nerve cell structure, allowing electrical impulses to pass through our body, telling our muscles to work. And by muscles, that includes our diaphragm, which allows us to breathe, and our heart, which pumps blood around our bodies. Those nerve cells also make up our central nervous system, or brain. So without salt, we couldn't think, our lungs wouldn't work, and our heart wouldn't pump. Long before we reach that stage though, there are warning signs of insufficient salt. Salt contains two elements that our body desperately needs to stay alive. Those two elements are sodium and chlorine. Insufficient sodium results in lethargy, nausea and irritability. Some people have mentioned that they get a lot of muscle cramps from low sodium diet, which goes away after eating enough salt. Insufficient chlorine results in bloating, belching, diarrhea, indigestion. Some have also attributed acne and food allergies to insufficient chlorine in our diet. Pretty much the only way to get sodium and chlorine is in the form of salt. However, before you reach for the table salt and start sprinkling it liberally over your chips, thinking you're doing your body a favour, be aware that in the West we tend to eat way too much salt. For the most part, this doesn't do us any harm since our kidneys expel excess salt. However, decades of eating too much salt results in a rise in blood pressure, leading to increased risk of stroke and heart disease. A lot of salt in the Western diet comes from manufacturers adding salt as a flavour enhancer and preservatives to pre-processed food. If you have a diet that is high in pre-packaged foods and tins, that is to say convenience foods, as well as fast foods, chances are you are having way too much salt in your diet and you needn't worry about where to get salt from, but rather you should look to how much salt you're eating and look to reduce the quantities you're taking in. And that about wraps it up for this Big Fat Hairy Loser update. If you're trying to lose weight, why not let me know in the comments section what kind of diet you're on and how you're doing with it. But as for me, Big Fat Hairy Gamer, I'll look forward to seeing you in another video.